Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. Today, we're talking about another crazy story from the LCS offseason today. More specifically, we're going to be talking about TSM and their support situation, the different kind of options that they did check out in this offseason and kind of as the course of the year went on. Because there's some really huge names being thrown around here and honestly a really crazy story as well about how they potentially were going after Corejj for a little while. But before we get into that one, I just want to mention real quick, if you're not already subscribed, definitely click that subscribe button really quick. It's fast, it's free, it's easy, it helps you guys stay updated on my latest content, and I would appreciate it a ton. Also, on the left-hand side of your screen, you will see my new merch that I'm going to be trying. It is a limited edition short line that's just going to be available for a couple of weeks. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely check that out as well. It's going to be the first link in the description below. With that being said, here we go. Getting right into this one. Apple had tweeted this out a couple hours ago. TSM went into this offseason wanting a really good support, and these are some of the names they contacted. Some of these we had heard about, some of these maybe we hadn't heard about as much. Hylissang, that's something that I did hear rumored a lot. Obviously, even as Reckless was talking about leaving Fnatic, people did talk about how Hylissang was potentially going to leave. I thought it was more likely that he would go somewhere in the LEC. That's kind of what I had heard more of. But obviously, TSM was looking to get a world-class support. Hylissang was potentially going to be available. That would have made sense. Kaiser from Mad Lions, that would have been another really, really hype pickup. But it doesn't seem like Mad Lions was ever really even considering letting any of those guys go. We've heard that they've kind of denied teams from talking to Humanoid, Carzzy, and Kaiser, all three of them. So that probably wasn't ever very, very realistic. Vander is somebody they reached out to, and I'm surprised that didn't go further because obviously we see that Vander ended up leaving Rogue and going to Misfit. So Vander was available. He was on the move, unlike Hylissang and Kaiser. So that's a little bit more interesting that TSM potentially could have ended up in a world with Vander, and I don't think that would have been a terrible move. It probably would have ended up being a little bit cheaper than Sword Art, but Sword Art should be a little bit more hype, obviously. But that doesn't mean he would necessarily do better in North America. So that one is kind of one of the more interesting and potentially more realistic ones on this list. Then it says they also talked to Effort, Lehens, and Ignar. Ignar was one that I really thought was going to get done. It did seem like that was going to be happening for a while, especially once TSM got Power of Evil. It seemed like PoE and Ignar were going to be a package deal. Obviously, coming over from FlyQuest, we've heard stories that they both enjoy playing together. That would have been interesting. Lehens is a guy we've heard about a lot. Effort, obviously, he was available for a little bit. That was a move that would have made sense because, as we heard, TSM wanted to get these big import name supports. But the big one here on the list is that Corejj was somebody that TSM went after, and it doesn't seem like they went after him this offseason. It seems like they went after him in between spring and summer split when they were acquiring Doublelift. Because it says here TSM wanting Corejj actually roots back to when Doublelift joined back the second time. So I guess they did try to get him in the offseason, but they had tried to get him before too. Maybe they reached out to Team Liquid again, which is obviously, I guess, smart by TSM. It doesn't hurt to ask. It doesn't hurt to reach out. But, man, there's just no world in which TL would give him up. It really doesn't make any sense for them to do that. So, Applehead says here that Doublelift loved playing with him, pushed for both him and Core to be traded. Obviously, we know Doublelift has loved Corejj. Corejj, for a time, seemed like he liked playing with Doublelift, but then by the end of it, it seemed like he was kind of ready to move on from Doublelift, move on to Tactical. So, when Doublelift got traded in between Spring and Summer Split from Team Liquid to TSM, it says that Doublelift was lobbying for Corejj to be traded to TSM2, wanting Corejj to come with him, wanting to stick together. Steve obviously instantly denied the offer, almost pulling out completely, which is crazy. He almost pulled out of trading Doublelift to TSM at all, probably because he was like so offended or just trying to be a hard negotiator and stuff, which is really, really crazy. And then TSM actually offered Treatz and a big lump of cash for both DL and Corejj. Obviously, I'm going to wonder how much money that was, and I think that there's, again, no way that TL would ever accept this because they're already trying to throw around a ton of money. It's not like they're, obviously, they're a business that wants to make a lot of money and stuff, but downgrading from Corejj to Treatz just would not make sense for Team Liquid when they're constantly trying to spend big money on all the latest free agents. Obviously, we can see just this offseason they went and got Santorin and Alfari. So, well, yes, for some teams, money might be a very, very valuable thing, a very sought-after thing, where we've seen some teams sell off some big, big players coming off amazing seasons. Just in the LCS this year, we've seen so many teams sell off their players, get rid of their players. But Team Liquid is not one of those teams in that position. But this just get me thinking that there's a world where Corejj could have been on TSM. I think it is really, really interesting that they reached out to him because this isn't something that I had heard about at that time in between spring and summer split or even any time this offseason that TSM was potentially interested in Corejj. Obviously, that seems obvious. Why would TSM not be interested in the best support in North America right now? But, I mean, it just seems so unrealistic. I'm surprised to hear that they were actually reached out as much as they did. And obviously, Steve was pretty pissed off by that and kind of offended by their offers and stuff. But, man, a world where Corejj was on TSM, that would be absolutely insane. But it would be such as good as it would be for TSM, it would be such a hit for Team Liquid that it just really doesn't make any sense. There's no world where this ever would have happened. But I did think this tweet was really, really interesting. Obviously, people love hearing about the TSM news. People love following TSM this offseason. And I think it is just fun to kind of think in our heads and theorycraft what TSM would have looked like with all these different lineups. Like if TSM got Hylissang, or TSM got Vander, or if TSM was able to get Effort or Ignore or Corejj. Just gets me thinking. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on here, a lot of cool stuff. You know, a lot of these guys coming over maybe potentially would have kept Doublelift from retiring. I know a lot of people wanted to see that. A lot of people wanted TSM to go a bunch of different ways with their offseason and roster. And if any of these players would have came to TSM, how the different other teams would have been affected. There's a story that if Hylissang came to TSM, maybe Treatz would have went to Fnatic. Imagine Kaiser leaving Mad Lions. Imagine Vander coming over to TSM. Corejj would have been a huge one, obviously. If Ignore was on TSM now, that would affect some other teams in the LCS. There's just so many moving parts going on here. It's just funny to think, like, once one player ends up at a certain team, how it affects the whole landscape. It can affect different teams. It can affect entire leagues. It can affect teams halfway across the world. It just is a really, really interesting thing. And obviously, I love talking about LOL Esports. I love talking about the LCS. I love talking about the offseason in general. So, you know, I had to cover this story. But that is pretty much it for this video today, guys. Definitely drop a like if you enjoyed it. Leave a comment down below. What support would you have liked to see on TSM? Are you hyped up for Sword Art? Is he the best option, or would you have loved to see another one of these guys on the list? Subscribe to stay up to date on all my latest content. Check me out over at Twitch, twitch.tv/I_am_Germ. Again, check out that merch. It's going to be the first link in the description below. Hopefully I catch you guys in the next one, but until then, peace!